Good afternoon, everybody. We're going to call this meeting to order. This is our first General Policy Committee meeting of the decade. We only get to say that once. January 9th, 2020. We will not have Commissioner Hayes Santos with us today. He is away on city business, and Commissioner Ariola will be late or this meeting lasts, but he told me he would not be here at the beginning of the meeting. And I saw Commissioner Warren out there, so she'll be with us briefly. And so our first order of business is adoption of the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Motion is second to adopt the agenda. Any members of the public wish to speak to the motion? Back to the commission. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? That motion passes. Next item is approval of the minutes from the December 12th meeting. Were there any additions, corrections, or is there a motion to approve?
I move approval.
Second.
Okay, motion is second to approve the minutes from December 12th. Any members of the public wish to speak to that? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? That motion passes. Okay, we have two discussion items today. The first is a discussion of our General Policy Committee meetings for this quarter. And then we're also going to be discussing our process for how we respond to official letters from other governmental entities. And so with that first, I will recognize Lindsay Hoffman, and you can guide us through this quarter.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Lindsay Hoffman, your Policy Oversight Administrator. I will preface this with a note that I have a cough that seems to get worse when I talk, which my kids find hilarious, but doesn't serve me great today. So I'm going to try and keep my part of this brief. So this is our General Policy Committee quarterly planning session. As a bit of history, you'll recall that back on August 22nd of last year, the committee voted to pilot a new meeting structure in an effort to enhance efficiency, transparency, and effectiveness. The establishment of quarterly cycles is a key component to this new system. Our first administrative meeting was in October, and we'll use this time to plan the second quarter of FY20, which runs through March. As a reminder of our policy process workflow, this is it. Some of these phases are moments in time or single meetings, and others take longer. And this is where we are in the policy process right now. We're planning for phase 2, which ideas will be brought to GPC for your consideration. So our goals for today's meeting. We're going to begin with scheduling agendas for the upcoming quarter. Last quarter, we had the opportunity to ease into this new system because there were very few GPC meetings to plan. But this quarter is a bit different. Our goal is to lay out the agendas and meeting topics for each of this quarter's meetings. Scheduling ahead like this has already proven to be very helpful for staff and for the community to know what's coming and to be prepared for robust conversations at these work sessions. Here are the dates for this quarter's GPC meetings. For agenda and time management purposes, and to allow wiggle room for emergency scheduling as we move through these months, we're recommending that 3 items be scheduled per meeting. This gives us 12 slots for the quarter. As noted for you here, there are 2 standing items coming from the city manager, who's requested that they be heard on March 12th. On page 8 of my memo in the backup, I've provided charts of items that have already been requested or are ongoing from your referral list. So to give us a starting place for this discussion, I've left for each of you at the dais, and I'll put here on the overhead. I can't tell if they're back there. Oh, they are. So responsive. This is a draft mock-up of what the quarter might look like. If you choose to hear those items that are standing or have already been requested to be heard. There are 2 items listed on this chart that were not in my memo. The first is code enforcement options on February 27th. That was requested in the memo circulated by Commissioner Hayes Santos earlier this week. Neighborhood Bill of Rights on March 12th was inadvertently left off my original chart. That is a pending referral, and it should have been included. Also on February 27th, we have alternative billing structures for key city services. This is listed in the memo as stormwater off the GRU bill, and it is now part of the formal policy process. There's an associated research report on it and has been before GPC in the past. So I'm happy to provide this draft as a starting point for your discussion of what might be heard over the course of the quarter, but it's up to you how to shuffle or organize. I will say that On the January 23rd item, creating an independent ethics review and training board, we do have somebody from the Palm Beach County Ethics Board that would be interested in coming up and sharing their experiences with you, and they're available on that day. I think that's it for me on
Okay,
this. Yes.
thank you very much, Ms. Hoffman, appreciate that update. Commissioner Simmons?
I have a question. For the code enforcement options, what exactly is that?
That item generated out of a sunshine meeting between several of you, but I don't remember who because it was several months ago.
Commissioner Ward, do you have some, or Johnson? Good.
It was, I mean, we talked about several things, including programs for empty storefronts and how we might help fill those empty storefronts with various things, and how we might better enforce codes enforcement in ways that improve the look of the city and move those things forward. Commissioner Johnson, you may have better.
A trip that I went near Durham where the city was like spotless, and I wondered how they managed to do that. And they said that the code enforcement, if the property owner didn't do what they were supposed to do within a certain amount of time, the city went ahead and did it, and then billed them for it. And then if they didn't pay it, then there was another step after that. So I asked the research team to look into those specific options or options around how to just do our code enforcement a little bit better.
Okay, thank you.
And I think Mr. Feldman has some experience and perspective on this as well. I know that we've talked about it briefly, and so I think there's some probably suggestions that we could bring to that meeting as well. Is that the only question?
I know I had a follow-up
Yeah, go ahead.
question. And I love the scheduling. I think this is great. It allows us to really focus on certain things and keep things moving, and it also gives staff enough time to do research and have a conversation and a dialogue about each particular topic. One topic that I'm interested in, and I think myself, Commissioners Ariola and Hayes Santos, we were looking at designated pickup and drop-off zones, and I wanted to at some point bring that back to GPC, if that's the will of the commission.
Pick up and drop off of what?
The curbside activities.
Like
the
Uber
curbside.
and Lyft and
No, like downtown
um,
restaurants and businesses. We look at Uber and things like that.
yeah, I was going to turn to Mr. Hoffman. When would we expect the next update on our sort of mobility plan? And we have a lot of things kind of circling around in mobility in general. I know this would be one of them.
We have a mobility workshop scheduled in February. I want to say it was February 17th, if I'm not mistaken. So curb management, I don't believe we had planned on a discussion of curb management in that workshop, but it would be an option provided we had sufficient time. I know we were going to have a significant parking discussion, so we could roll at least some, it might not be in great depth, but we could roll a curb management discussion, which would include rideshare hailing into that.
So
if
let's
the city
do
manager was
that,
comfortable.
and then based on that discussion, we can see what further
Okay.
steps we need to
Yeah.
take.
If there was no, I know that's going to be the parking discussion will be a lengthy discussion, so I do hesitate to do anything that'll take away from that. So, but it is an alternative if you can't find a slot here.
Okay.
Well, because it's, I'd like to keep mobility together. So let's try to do that. And even if it's a brief discussion, if it opens up, like if it brings the questions we need to ask and get staff to follow up with, at least
Okay.
we do that and we kind of get it moving
Yeah.
forward.
Okay.
Good.
Thanks.
And that's
Okay.
February, so it would probably be sooner than
Okay.
most other options.
Okay, Commissioner, was that your last
Yes, sir.
issue?
Thank
Okay.
you.
Commissioner Ward?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. What is the violence prevention item?
Broadly guns, but
Oh, okay.
but it's in more than that. So there's a lot of different components to that. Ms. Hoffman has a pretty well, I don't want to say deep, but there's a lot of research that she and the fellows have done on that they
Okay.
can give to you.
Good, thank you.
Commissioner Johnson?
Thank you. There are two things. One, I'd love to see some updates on a few things that are happening in the city. I wonder how we might be able to work that in. One is are we calling it consortium, the food consortium? Food Systems Coalition, the Food Systems Coalition, the UF Partnership, and community engagement. I'm wondering if we can get like a 15-minute update on all of those items. Two, we'd like to bring back some information and some discussion points from the Race and Equity Committee. One around procurement, and two, we're going to be working through the Race and Equity Impact Statement. So I would love an opportunity somewhere on this. Maybe March 12th would be a good space, either February 27th or March 12th, to talk about Race and Equity Subcommittee items.
Okay. March 12th feels to me like it's going to be a packed meeting. Does the GPD quarterly briefing need to be on the 12th? I mean, is the idea that it's going to be on the last meeting of each quarter?
So, Mayor, my preference, and I recognize the GPD tactical brief predates me, is that we schedule it as needed instead of just having a quarterly one that's just set. So unless the will of the commission is to, just have this always scheduled, as we have changes that we want to bring forward or interject them with maybe the discussion on the violence issue, do it that time versus a standing.
Well, that was my original thinking. Is February 13th seems like a good time for that, because ultimately the buffer zone issue is going to require GPD presence there, and then the violence prevention is heavy GPD, and so that might be while they're there. And I know my preference from the last tactical briefing is I think we wanted a little less depth, sort of the high points, and not sort of the granular detail that we got. So it might fit in. What I would recommend to create some room on the 12th is move that tactical briefing as part of the other discussions on the 13th, but make it brief. Make it a 10 to 15 minute presentation, and then if there's follow-up questions that we have, we can ask staff or Chief Jones or somebody to fill in those questions. Is there any objection to doing that, removing that from the 12th and putting it on the 13th?
I think that sounds reasonable.
Okay, very good. What were the three, the food systems?
Yeah, food systems, you have partnership, community engagement. And I also feel like we're going to need an in-depth amount of time to talk about CRA. I mean, is that going to fit on are we going to do a special workshop around that?
Well, you're going to have a item on your March 5th agenda to deal with the work plan.
On a
Commission meeting.
commission meeting.
And we have to achieve certain things, and I've got to go back and read the ordinance as to what those benchmarks are with the county for a meeting by April 1st, which right now we have tentatively scheduled for March 31st. But
Well, we're going to get an update this coming Thursday.
right,
On the status of the advisory committee and sort of where things stand. I think at that meeting, we'll know better whether we should schedule a special workshop.
Okay, so we
Or
won't have it
we-
here, yeah,
Yeah.
that makes sense.
my only request is that if you are going to talk about food security, you do not do it at the March meeting. Our primary person, Carissa, I believe is due with child on March 14th. And,
Well, that's 2 days later.
well, Mayor, I had that discussion with her as well.
No, I would hope she'd be free a month before then. Okay, that's helpful. Okay, we'll keep those in mind, Commissioner, and keep going around the horn here. Commissioner Warren?
Yeah, and I don't know if this is the time to ask for it, but when Mr. Hoffman was up there, when we were talking about the mobility workshop, I was wondering if I could ask about an item to be included in that, or if I need to take that out off this.
Bring it up and see if it
Okay,
fits.
so when we had the opening of Main Street, I was really impressed with the availability of the back-end parking, and I was wondering if we could look at other areas in the city where we could incorporate more of the backward parking into spaces.
So the main point of the mobility workshop is parking, right? So we'll fold it in.
That's what he
Yeah.
said, parking, and it
Yep.
just,
Yep,
that's
so
great.
we'll definitely bring that up then. Okay, there's one item that I would, this is taking some coordination with a person who no longer lives in Gainesville, but I had an intern this past semester who worked on youth after and out of school services, and she did a lot of research. She spoke with a lot of organizations and people, basically trying to connect the dots and find out where there's opportunities, where, she did a lot of research that I think would help inform us, and I want to keep that conversation fresh, especially in our conversations with how we can assist the school board in their mission. I would not expect that to take more than 20 to 30 minutes, but I did tell her that I wanted to give her the opportunity to share her work with us. She has graduated. She was forced to graduate. She wanted to stay around for spring semester, but they said, no, you've got too many credits, got to get out of here. But she said she really would love the opportunity to come back to do that as sort of a capstone project for her work. And so I think it would fit on the 23rd based on those other items, and I don't think it'd eat up too much time. So there's no objection. I'd like to add and invite her, and then I told her probably that would be when we could do it. So hopefully she's free, but we have to make sure she can travel back up here for that day. Is there any objection to that? Get that report.
That's
And if you haven't
January.
met her, she's phenomenal. Amanda Barrett, she's just a great person to meet. February 23rd, yeah. Okay, so youth after and out of school, Lindsay, on February 23rd.
Was it
23rd.
January
I'm
23rd?
sorry, January 23rd, yes.
And it's
sorry.
youth out of school time?
Yeah, youth after and out of school programs. Okay, Commissioner Johnson? That's all light? Okay, Commissioner Ward?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. About the regularity of the GPD tactical briefing, I would like, at that briefing, I would like us to get some information, some deeper information about our options on, I'm not sure how to term it, but we've all seen the activity hotspots on the map of hotspots for GPD activity, and 3 of the 4 addresses are always the 3 locations of a major retailer that I won't name. And it's kind of a national issue that this retailer is outsourcing its security to local police departments without bothering to talk about it. And I would like us to get information, some detail about what it costs us, what it costs the city of Gainesville to respond to those, so that we can begin to have a response to that.
So we'll be proposing an ordinance shortly on what we call excessive call.
Great.
So I'm not sure you have to wait for the GPC meeting
Perfect.
to do that.
Very good.
Okay.
Also, generally speaking on that tactical briefing, I think that in the past, we have made the mistake of saying GPD is good, they're doing everything they need to do, we don't need to have GPD items in front of us. And I think that has created too much distance between City Hall and the police department. And for that reason, I would like to keep a regular recurring item on our agenda, just so that we're forced to do that by tradition, if nothing else. Because otherwise, if things are working well, it drifts. So having them come talk and us ask questions, I think is useful to keeping that from happening again. Just a thought.
Yeah, I just think they need to be briefer.
I agree.
Yeah.
It doesn't need to be 3 hours.
Yeah. And actually, on that topic, as part of the GPD update, if we could generally get an update on traffic enforcement, I know that's something that, as we had staffing issues, traffic enforcement was something that, became a lower priority compared to the other needs. As we're now getting back up to full staffing, where do we stand with that, and especially how does that fit within our Vision Zero priorities? That's obviously one of the four major components of Vision Zero. So if we can just get an update from the chief or Inspector Campos or whoever would be most appropriate on traffic enforcement and Vision Zero as far as GPD as part of that briefing on the 13th. Commissioner Johnson?
Thank you. That actually wasn't an OLED. I just forgot. So basically, to reiterate what Commissioner Ward was saying, is that I also would like to have a quarterly update. I find it really useful and just a touch shorter.
Yeah, okay, so we'll keep that. Okay, so Ms. Hoffman, I think we have a plan.
I think so. And if food systems, depending on how Chris is doing, that might be something that could be incorporated on the 27th, because the zero waste discussion will have a composting element, and the food system is involved in that, and so it would have some overlapping people that might be interested in that discussion if Carissa makes it that far.
Okay, Commissioner Johnson?
Do you think that UF partnership can fit in with that, since the food systems was the main priority, right, that we made for the UF partnership, if I'm correct?
That might be good on the 12th UF partnership.
So we're doing the race and equity on the 12th, and also the update.
So what's race and equity? How much? So the statement shouldn't be a long discussion, right? I mean, that's
Well, the procurement, we're going to be deciding on some ideas that staff is going to bring back to us, and then whatever they bring back, we're going to ask for the full commission to vote on. And then we're also going to get some ideas about the impact statements. They're doing some further research about that, and I imagine that by that time we'll have something to bring back to the commission to discuss.
okay. Let's. That's a priority, I guess, over UF. So let's try to put UF on the 27th, because some of this is contingent upon whether they can be here as well. And then we'll put race and equity on the 12th. But let's keep a close eye. I mean, if the committee's not ready, I mean, if you're still working on some
Yeah,
stuff, then
I will.
we can switch some things out. So, I'll work with the clerk's office and Lindsay to keep an eye on, like, as we get into February, where stuff is, and if we need to shuffle things around, we can bring this back to either a general policy or a city commission meeting and
What's the UF item?
partnership. Just so that.
Because it's not on here currently and you wanted it out.
No, that's something Gail brought up. But yeah, it's a update
With the
on
food.
Yeah, specifically that, but there's a lot of things with the UF partnership that,
Yes.
have been happening and still need to happen, so we need to keep that active. Commissioner Simmons?
Ms. Hoffman, on the January 23rd, the creating an independent ethics and review and training board. Now, is that contingent on the representative from Palm Beach coming?
It's not,
It's not, so that's.
and we
just
haven't
a
confirmed
condition.
him. We know
Okay.
he's said that he should be available on that day.
But if not, we're still gonna talk about
We can.
that. And I just wanted to briefly touch on a tactical briefing. I'm in support of us having them come quarterly. The state of the community, we need to hear what's going on and have conversations. But I'm with you all, the deep conversations, the 3-hour-long conversations, the material that we heard prior, I think we can do without that and just build on what's today and move forward.
Yeah, the high level stuff.
Yeah, the high level stuff.
Yeah, and I think it is important as we go through this year, and we're going to be transitioning to the new reporting system. And it's going to be important, I think, to have sort of a side-by-side current and future, and because it's going to be easy for the media to get confused and think that there's all of a sudden a spike in things when really it's a different way of reporting. And if we're doing those side-by-side as we go through the next, several months, it's, I think it's less confusing that way. Okay, thank you, Commissioner. Mr. Feldman?
I was just going to suggest that maybe the code enforcement discussion be its own separate workshop. Instead of a GPC item, there's going to be a lot to talk about in terms of philosophy and potential actions.
Okay, yeah, if it's good, if it's a big one, I definitely would prefer it to be standalone.
I would put it up with mobility as that length
Yeah.
of a meeting.
Okay, so an eventual motion will then refer to the clerk's office to schedule a date for that. Commissioner Ward?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would move that we finalize the quarterly agenda as seen up here.
Okay, motion and second. Okay, so I'll kind of go through in a little bit more detail here. So on January 23rd, we will discuss an independent ethics review and training board, public campaign financing, youth after and out of school programming, and living wage requirements for contractors. On February 13th, we will discuss buffer zones around medical facilities, making code ordinances gender neutral, violence prevention, and the GPD tactical briefing, including a couple specific things that we mentioned. On February 27th will be alternative billing structures for key city services, zero waste, the food coalition, food systems coalition, and the UF partnership. Yeah, and then on March 12th will be wild spaces, neighborhood bill of rights, and the race and equity issue. Okay, any members of the public wish to speak to the motion? All right, coming back to the commission, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Oh, and embedded in that motion, I am assuming that we're going to refer to the clerk's
workshop.
office, the workshop.
Yes.
Got that, okay. All opposed? No, that motion passes unanimously. We have Hayes Santos and Ariel absent. Okay, thank you, Ms. Hoffman, for that preparatory work. Next, we have process for responding to official letters from governmental entities to the city commission. This was Mr. Hayes, or Commissioner Hayes Santos' referral, but do you have an opinion?
It's me again.
Yes.
On the overhead, well, I circulated a memo at the end of October with some research and proposals for how we could approach this. There was interest in creating a system, an official system for how the commission responds when official correspondence is received, particularly letters from one governmental entity to you as a body, and how you draft your response and transmit it. And so really, my memo includes sort of the research that we were able to do, but the bottom line is that the most important element is establishing a responsible party who shepherds the process. So in the places that we found systems that were either written or codified, it's usually either the mayor or the city manager who receives the correspondence, circulates it to the commission, figures out what extra information is needed in order to draft a response, maybe crafts a draft response before the city commission meeting where the item will be discussed, so that there's a starting point for the discussion. And then there in step 5 is what happens typically at the commission meeting where the item is discussed. The substance of the response is crafted. The party is designated who will write the actual response in the event that it's not that point person who'd been designated, if there's some other member of city government that's the more appropriate person. And then establishing a deadline and making sure that it's transmitted by that deadline. So it's a pretty easy and the issue is really having one person or entity who oversees the process, and that's how we avoid having anything fall through the cracks. And so that's the real question is who should these official correspondences be routed to, and that person will shepherd it through the response process.
Okay, thank you. Usually it comes to me and then gets copied to, whoever else, the commission or the city manager's office or various people. To me, it seems like the clerk's office should be the shepherd. Because you're standing there. No, I mean, really it makes a sense. I mean, the clerk is responsible for the official records anyway. And so it would seem to make sense that I would work with the clerk's office to sort of go through this process, make sure it gets agended, and then take the feedback from the commission on the response and work with the clerk's office to draft the response and get it back. Does that seem to make sense to everybody?
Yeah.
Unless the mayor pro tem is more appropriate to do that, or perhaps the District 1 commissioner.
Maybe someone who's not here.
Right.
All right.
Definitely the District 3 commissioner. If that seems reasonable to everybody. This was on a different topic, your light?
Yeah, it's all.
Oh, okay. Mr. Feldman?
So I don't end up overstepping. I'm just trying to, and I'm coming in after this discussion started. I just want to make sure I understand when you talk about official correspondence. So there's some stuff that will come to either the mayor or myself, which is very time sensitive in terms of executing on behalf of the city to, comply with some regulation or something along that line, which is really not a policy decision, but is more ministerial. And I guess my concern is I don't want us to create a process that is going to.
No, it's not that, it's not that kind of correspondence. It's more like when we get a letter from the county commission or the school board, we had a discussion and took a vote on something, and can you please respond? And so that's the stuff
Yeah.
where it is more commission to commission, elected body to elected body.
Yeah, I
not
just
the
want,
ministerial
I just
stuff.
wanted to clarify that it's not all official correspondence. It's
Right, no, it's the
Policy
it's sort of
stuff.
body to body
Yeah.
kind of thing, yeah. Anybody want to make a motion? To
I'll
make
make a
me do
motion.
more work?
I'll make the motion that as appropriate, the response follows the recommendations that have been provided here, with recognition that when there's a critical need for an immediate response, those are recognized and dealt with as needed.
Okay, and that'll be the mayor and the clerk's office that will be the shepherds of this process.
In that.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Okay, any members of the public wish to speak to the motion? Welcome.
Happy New Year's, everybody.
You too.
Mr. Mayor, Commission. Brian O'Brien for the record. I would just like to comment on that last item where Mr. Feldman's trying to exert the authority that you have hired him to perform, and you're already neutering him, taking that function unto yourself. I don't think that's a fair way to start off with our new city manager. It's his job to run the city. You're just the mayor, sir. I mean, I'm happy to talk about it, but
Well,
he
that
just,
was a declaratory statement, not a question.
he he just asked you not to take the authority away from him.
Mr. Feldman, is that what you just asked?
No,
No, it
I
wasn't.
was satisfied that the
you.
commission's answer was.
That was my understanding as well.
Yeah, well, I noticed, Mr. Feldman, since you've been on board, that Mr. Poe has already taken the liberty of writing letters to people without the commission meeting. And I think that's very unprofessional and outside the bounds of what the mayor's powers are. You shouldn't be firing off letters to the media and everybody else, making your own position statements without the rest of the commission being able to vote on it. That's my declaratory statement.
Very good, thank you.
I do expect there to be some more formal structure to the way the city's run now that we have a permanent city manager, and that you start following the rules that are required by the city's charter. So that we're square on where we get started here. I think it's wonderful that we have a new face in the city, and that he's ready to step up and, have a new way of dealing with things. But I do expect some kind of answer as to how it is that you just shot off at the JLAC issue without getting any input from the rest of the commission. How do you take the power of this city unto yourself as a single individual? And that won't stand. That's not the way the charter works. So I hope that you'll take that refresher course in ethics and
Thank you, Mr. O'Brien.
understand
Your time is concluded.
how the city should function from the
Thank you.
powers.
Yeah, and I just updated my ethics training a few weeks ago.
You might want to pay more
Thank you.
attention next time.
Yeah, I paid plenty of attention. And just to your statement, this is formalizing the process and creating more structure to what we do. That's exactly the action we're taking today. So I'm hoping you're pleased with that. Any other members of the public who speak to the motion? Okay, back to the commission. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? That motion passes unanimously. Okay, up next we have public comment. This is for any items not on our agenda. Members of the public that wish to speak to anything that wasn't on our agenda. We have 3 minutes. Okay, seeing nobody come forward, we have member comment. Commissioner Ward.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Happy New Year, everybody. It's good to be back with all of us. And I want to make clear I reserve a right to send a letter as the District 2 Commissioner and as a citizen of this community. Because the First Amendment applies to me too, and I assume that it applies to the rest of the commission and to the mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I've got 2 items, both referrals. I just passed out to you. This is just background. You don't need to read it now. You can just keep it with you. But I just like to refer to the Parks and Rec Board, the naming of the Kiwanis Girl Scouts Park that's going through a renovation. And I will just tell you a conversation that I had with members of the Kiwanis that they're concerned that they're going to be sort of named out of it. They created the park. They've invested in it over many, many years, both in money and volunteer time. And they just would like to make sure that they're still appreciated and acknowledged as that becomes sort of a new park. And so if we could refer the naming issue to the Parks and Rec Board, and then they'll be happy to attend that meeting and talk to the board about their significance there. Commissioner Warren?
Yeah, I would love to make that recommendation, and I appreciate the presence of the historical documents and the history. As we're celebrating 150 years, these type of historical actions can easily be lost. So I'm full in support of making the motion to allow the recommendation for the Parks and Recreation to make sure they consider the keeping of the Kiwanis name within the efforts. They're doing some great work too, but let's not forget the roots.
Very good. Is there a second? Second. Motion is second to refer the naming of Kiwanis Park to the Parks and Rec Board. Any members of the public wish to speak to the motion? Okay, back to the question. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? And then the second, I'd like to refer to, through the city manager, Public Works, doing some branding and place identification for the Innovation Square idea. Many of the residents and people who work there would like to try to separate out that and create a sense of place there to be able to compete with places like Celebration Point and other places like that. They've actually done a lot of work behind it, have some good ideas, and just want to work with Public Works on things like signage and that sort of thing. So I just wanted to refer to Public Works to allow them to work with the stakeholders in the area to come up with a sense of place and brand identity program for that area. Commissioner Simmons?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. And I agree with that. And alongside those words, your comments, I was thinking about downtown as well. I think we need to start looking at signage and really start advertising and marketing our downtown. So if we can add something
Absolutely.
in addition to what you were speaking.
So we'll do Innovation Square in
in
downtown.
downtown.
Okay. You want to make a
I
motion?
make,
Okay.
so I would like to move that we have, through the city manager, have the Public Works look at signage for innovative hub area in downtown.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Motion is second. Mr. Feldman?
I would just ask that you take the Public Works part off. Let me figure out where
Sure.
the right part of the.
Absolutely. We'll just
organization
refer to the
is.
city manager's office. Okay. Okay, any members of the public wish to speak to that? All right, back to the commission. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? That motion passes unanimously. Anything else? All right, well, Happy New Year, everybody. That was a great first meeting of the decade. Seeing no further business before us, we are adjourned.